This is Mark Rosen from WCCO TV, and it's my pleasure to introduce my good friend Ron Henderson, the Fitness King, presenting Motivation, one word to help change your life.
Welcome to Motivation. I'm Ron Henderson, aka the Fitness King. I'm excited about today's show. I have the privilege and the honor to have world-renowned mentalist and motivational speaker Benji Bruce on Motivation today via Skype. Welcome to Motivation, Benji.
Thanks for having me.
Great time. You know, before we get in, I mean, you've done so much. I probably have seen at least 40 of your videos. I've looked you up big time, know a whole lot about you. But before we get into that, where did you actually grow up?
Well, it was mostly in Colorado Springs, and so I was born in Germany, but then we moved to Colorado Springs, and then from there, at the age of 10 was when I learned how to do magic. When I was 13, I started doing restaurant magic, so I would go to restaurants, go table to table, perform for people in the restaurants, and I did that for years, like over a decade, and that's how I made all my money, and eventually I turned into a corporate entertainer, and from there I turned into a speaker, and then from there I just built the whole online business, and that's kind of what happened.
We're going to get into that, but you're such a success. I want to actually go back. The first time that you actually went on stage, you were 13 years of age. Okay, 13 as a mentalist?
Well, 13 was when I first started performing in restaurants. So I wasn't like on a stage, it was just in a restaurant.
Okay, so what was the first time you actually performed on a stage, Benji? How old were you?
I don't really remember, because I mean it happened like gradually. It was like, all right, a house party, and then it just happened gradually. And like the way my brain works is I kind of don't pay attention to what happened in the past, and it's one of the reasons why when people say like, what are some of the mistakes you've made, it's not because I can't think of, or well, it's not because I haven't made mistakes. I just don't think of it because I just don't remember them. So it's it's
so
similar.
You don't remember even what that first time, what it felt like, you know, and how it felt in your, you know, in your spirit and in your brain, and you know.
No, not really. I do remember that when I did a kids party, I was like, oh hell no, I'm not doing any one of these again. So that's what I remember with that. But when it came to corporate, I just remember, like, I'm trying to remember like when it was. The one that was probably the most memorable was the Remax, like when I got hired by Remax, because that was when I was like, yes, it works. This marketing stuff works, and that was the one where I really remembered. But it wasn't first.
Okay, and for people that don't know, what is a mentalist? For people that don't know, what is a mentalist actually?
So it's basically someone who does mind reading tricks on stage. So instead of doing like tricks with I don't know, floating lady or something, you're telling people to think of things, like think of an object, and then you're guessing what the objects are. So it's like a psychological illusionist.
Okay, and can you give me an example of how you actually do that?
Yeah, so like one of the things that I would do, and you guys can even like go onto your computers and look it up, type in Benji Bruce Fox News, and you'll see me guess the amount of money that they have in their wallets. It's like I'll tell people like, all right, I'm going to guess the exact amount of money you got in your wallet. And so I'll do things like that, or I'll guess the name of their first kiss, and the money got me on TV multiple times.
I'm sorry. So how do you do that?
Well, I can't say. I mean, it's I can't say.
Where did you learn that? Where did you learn that gift? Where did you learn? Was it like innate for you or something?
No, so I don't ever think of anything in terms of gifts or talents. I think in terms of skills. So it's like basically I started out with the magic, and then I like the psychology behind the magic, because people, they would always do the same things. Like in a restaurant, I'm performing in a restaurant, they would always do and say the same things, like, hey, can you make my check disappear, and things like that. And you notice that as you start performing. So I like the psychology. Then I just start learning the mind reading behind it. Like if you tell people, think of a number between 1 and 10. Most people think of 7. And then when you tell them to think again, like, all right, do it again, they go down to either 3 or 4. And so it's like there's certain things like that that naturally happen. And then guys have created a whole industry around it just called mentalism. And then bam, you just learn certain tricks through other people, making stuff up, things like that.
Could you do anything with me actually through Skype? I'm curious.
No, so I stopped doing it, like especially just through video. I can do it on radio. I did do it on radio several times, but I stopped doing it because it's not as impressive.
Yep. Well, I'm impressed. Okay, the fact that you can do any of that. Okay, so you went from a mentalist to become like kind of a motivational speaker. How did that transition? How did that happen?
well, transition because I was like, what's going to make the most amount of money? So
Right, okay.
I was like, literally, as I was going into the corporate market, I was like, okay, like how do I start making more per show? And I realized that an entertainer can charge a certain amount, but a speaker, they're valued higher than an entertainer, and so speakers get paid 20,000 and all that to be on the
Right.
stage. And so I said, okay, instead of me being a mentalist, I'm just going to say I'm a speaker. I'm a motivational speaker. And that's what I did. And for about a whole year, I called myself a speaker. I never did a single speech. I simply did a mind reading show. I simply told them like, hey, I'll be the keynote presenter, the keynote speaker at your event. And then I say, I would describe the mind reading show. And they'd be like, all right, let's bring them in. And so after about a year, someone actually said, well, what do you speak about? And I was like, motivation. And that's when I actually transitioned from entertainer to speaker,
Right.
and why that. And then you were going to ask a different question.
I was asking, so when did that, Benji, when did that actually get good in your spirit where you just felt really comfortable? The reason I asked you this, because before we lost the connection, I was talking about the first time that I actually saw you on YouTube, I thought, who is this guy? Okay? Because you were kind of like being smart and different things. And then the more I listened, I was like, I love this guy. Okay? I love your sense of humor. And more importantly than that, we're going to be talking about that in a few minutes. I love the fact that you actually give a lot out to people for free. And that's what I do for people all the time on my TV show. I promote people. You give great content out. Most people just, they put it in your mind just so that you can buy this or that. And you have to sell things, but you actually give things that actually help people, Benji, even if they didn't buy anything that you have, which is actually unusual. But I have to commend you on that, okay? So when did it get good in your spirit?
Well, you mean like when did I just get comfortable on stage, or when?
Yeah, you just felt like you just know. It's like when you know that I know I can go speak places. I know I can. I know when that happens.
Well,
you know when you felt that.
Well, I mean, because I've never had a job, so like this is literally all I've ever done my entire life. So it literally, So like when I went from the restaurants and I was performing in the restaurants, that's how I was making money. And then eventually I started charging the restaurants, and I started doing some corporate work and all that. And so it naturally built up just because it's all I've ever done. So even when I called myself a speaker and I've never spoken on a stage, when someone said, what do you speak about? I knew I could instantly come up with a speech. I'm like, all right, I'll just come up with a speech. But I will say my first speech, I ran out of things to say. So like, I was like, okay, they gave me 60 minutes and about 20 minutes into it, I ran out of things. I was like, uh-oh. And that's when I went into performing mode and I started performing for people or performing for the crowd, and it basically turned into a show. But I've always been comfortable on stage. In a video, though, video is different. And I was talking about this with a friend, to where for some reason when you start recording on a video, you get into this like professional mode. It's weird. It's like, hi, everybody. I'm Benji Bruce. I'm going to teach you how to do marketing. And it's like this weird thing that everyone does on video.
I agree.
And like I thought, like, you know what? I've been performing my entire life, been speaking. That's not going to happen to me in a video. And then if you go back, you look at my other videos, like that's literally what I do. I mean, I would say I didn't do it to the extent that most people do, just because I've been a performer. But compared to like back then versus now, is a lot different. And so essentially what I started thinking as I was creating videos is, how do I act around friends? And that's kind of what I started doing in a video, to where I'm insanely sarcastic with friends. I say the most ridiculous stuff around friends. And so I start saying those types of things in a video as well. And I got to a point where I stopped caring about what people think, because no matter what you do, no matter what content you create, no matter what you say, there's always going to be someone out there who's like, oh, I think that's not funny. That's not, your humor is not hilarious to me. And no matter what you do, that's what's going to happen. And you have to get to a point where you simply don't care what they think. It's like I don't care if you don't like my humor. That's the way it is. I just don't.
Right.
Got to get to that point where a lot of people say they don't care. You have to truly mean it. You're like, I can care less if you don't like my humor. Like when I tell people, I did another interview the other day, and the guy, he mentioned the background. He's like, oh, I love where you're at. I mean, it's beautiful. And I was like, yeah, thank you. I know I am. And so I do things like that.
Oh yeah, but I love it.
Yeah. So like when I do things like that, some people they're like, "That's not funny. He's so arrogant." I'm like, "Don't watch me then. Like I don't have time for you. Don't watch me." And so
Exactly.
you got to get to a point where you simply don't care about those types of people.
Sure.
And then what happens is you essentially just naturally attract the people you want to be around. And
I
so
agree.
that's kind of the mindset that I have when I'm doing anything.
I agree. And you do a great job because of the fact that we share similarities. Because when I speak, what I tell people, when I try to help people with speaking, is act like you're talking to that best friend, that person that you care about, all right? That you don't,
Yeah.
then you're not going to come off kind of like you're talking about. You're going to be just natural. You're natural. You make a mistake. And guess what? People who are professional, when you make a mistake on there and you go, oh, I chuckle about it. I love the fact that you're being natural about it. This stuff where people have it all just set up, I don't really care for. I like the naturalness of what you do. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So you started. I want to move from there
Yeah.
because you're a motivational speaker, but then you started a speaker. Can you talk about your academy that you have, and what made you actually
Yeah.
start that lifestyles, speaking lifestyles?
Yeah, so I honestly started it because all the information out there just sucked. I was like, so it's coming from a guy from me who's done this his entire life, literally just getting on stages, not a single job ever. And I start looking at all this advice about people who are like, all right, the way you get on stage is through referrals, through word of mouth, through having a great presentation. I'm like,
Yeah.
that doesn't tell me anything about how to get on a stage. And so I was like, all right, that's not what you actually do. So I started creating content like, all right, here's how you do outreach. Here's how you send cold emails. Here's the exact script you use. Here's how you use a CRM. And people were like, what's a CRM? I'm like, damn, these speaker trainers are horrible. They even teach people what a CRM is. And so I literally, I got pissed at the advice I was out there because it's one thing for advice to be different. It's another for it to be wrong. And so I was like, this is just flat out wrong.
Okay.
Like they're training people to freaking send out these promo packets. It's 2018. Nobody cares about your damn promo packet. That's back when there wasn't websites. And so I'm like, this information is just flat out wrong.
Right.
And so that's what kind of allowed me to create Speaking Lifestyle. And that's where everything is in terms of the free content. The Speak Pro Academy, speakproacademy.com, that's the program where I literally help everyone get on stages. Like Dave Davlin, he's a guy, he's actually like an entertainer / speaker, and he literally went from praying to God that someone was going to help him out to finding out the information, and then he did almost $250,000 in a year.
Wow.
Just from the Speak Pro Academy. And so now, obviously, that's not average, but just like an email I sent out today, I said, you shouldn't want to be average. You have to be the exception.
Exactly.
So like everyone's like, what's the average this in your program? I'm like, who cares what average is? Be that one guy in the program who makes $1 gazillion off the program. Because
Exactly.
average anything is useless.
Limits you, and it limits you when you think that way.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean, I personally find it crazy. People are like, what's the average results in your program? Why would you care what the average results are? Like, why would you ever care? Average results in anything is freaking zero. It's nothing. It's you don't have anything going on in your life. And so you want to be Bill Gates. You want to be Jeff Bezos. You want to be the 1%. You don't want to be the average. And so it's that's why. Yeah, I don't want to go off on a whole tangent on that because I can go off on tangents.
But where did you learn, like when you say you talk about the email writing and all that stuff, where did you learn that yourself, those things? Where did you learn?
Yeah, well, I mean, I learned it through trial and error because, like I said, nobody really had the information out there. There were a few guys who was talking about certain things. So what I did is I simply read a lot of books on marketing and sales and just business in general, and then I would just apply it to what I was doing. So, like, if I'm reading a book on I don't know, just how to pitch. Like there's been books around on sales pitching for years, but in terms of actually translating it into how I get hired as a speaker, that's what I had to do. I had to say, okay, he's talking about this, but how do I use it to get hired as a speaker? And so I started translating it, and I was using tools like Yesware and all these other tools online in my CRM to kind of figure out if I send out this email, what's the response going to be versus this email. So it was like trial and error, and eventually I got it down to a really cool system.
Okay, now I got to ask you this, were you like a straight A student in school? I mean, what was it like in high school? Because you're very intelligent, okay? Were you a straight A student in high school?
Yeah, so I was in the top 10 of my class in high school. And so I was like number 8 out of, I don't know, like almost 400 or something like that. But yeah, so I was like in the top 10. But in college, what happened was I got to a point where I was like, okay, I wanted to be an attorney actually. So I got to a point where I realized, no, forget attorney. I just want to grow my business.
Yep.
And that's when my grades actually, I just kind of ignored all the grades. I was like, forget that. I'm not really paying attention to it. So I actually graduated college with a lower GPA just because I didn't care anymore.
Yep.
But yeah, in high school, I was a top 10. So
Wow.
I read a lot, like a lot.
Okay, because I know my business partner, Wani, we were talking about you, and I said, you got to check this guy out, right? And so he says, well, I don't know about the guy. I got to check it out. And so then he looked at it, he says, we have your course. You follow me? He's my business partner, okay? And he was like, he went through his stuff. He said, man, this guy's awesome. I said, I told you the guy's awesome. I told you. Because I've looked at so many people out there. I won't even give out their names, because when I see people are doing things that I can tell the average person is not going to benefit, or when people go to meetings and the person honestly doesn't have the skill to really be a speaker, but they lie to the person, okay? I don't even mention their name because I don't want to talk about those people. But like I said, again, your honesty, okay? And so what does it cost? I want to know exactly from our audience, what does it cost for people to like get in your Speaker Pro Academy and all those things?
So the Speak Pro Academy, it used to have a monthly option. We're going to get rid of that one, but it's $1997 a year, $1,997 a year, or just $5,000 for a lifetime. $4,997 for a lifetime. So you can do one of those two options, or you can simply just get one section of the program called Event Finder, which shows you how to find and contact events, just for $495. But honestly, I tell people join the Speak Pro Academy, either 2,000 or 5,000, because that's where we like really work on stuff every day, where we're working on what you're saying, working on your website. I'm personally helping you out. Any other programs, I don't help you out. There is no support. And with this, I'm really helping out. Like, that's why Dave got to where he was. That's why all these people get to where they are, because I say, like, no, say this, do this, put this on your website. So I'm like really helping them out.
Oh yeah. And I got to tell you something. You're great at what you do. The only issue that I have is you have those academy trainings when I'm working.
Well, now it's every day, 10 a.m. that we're doing.
But I work every day. See, full time. Okay, I'm a personal trainer and a motivational speaker, but full time I'm training people. I've been training people for 38 years. Okay. Anybody, I've trained everybody, NFL players, everybody. Okay. And I don't say it to plug myself, but that's what I'm doing full time. So I'll see the thing that you're online. I'm like, man, I wish I could go to there, but I can't, you know?
Yeah, you can always post inside the group too. Just post. And I'll answer inside
we did a thing for $2,000, and I had a guy actually ask me this morning. I said, first of all, because of what I charge when I speak somewhere, even if I decide because I know somebody that I want to discount it, it's still $6,000. So to pay, you know what I mean, for your course, it's not a lot of money. If you really want to be a speaker, you have, like you say, what do you have to do? Tell them. Tell my audience. What do you have to do if you want to be a speaker? Tell my audience, Benji.
Well, in terms of being a speaker, so I tell them, like, you got to think in terms of you're going to contact at least 100 people a day. That's minimum. All right. And from there, what's going to happen is as you try to contact people, nobody's going to say yes to you in the beginning because you don't have a good website. You don't have videos. You don't have pictures. You got to get creative with how you're going to get it. You have nothing. You're a scrub in the beginning. Right. And so nobody wants to work with a scrub. So you got to contact a minimum of 100 people a day. You have to overcome yourself, meaning your procrastination. You want to watch Netflix, everything that's popping up in your life. You got to overcome all that stuff. And then when you start contacting people, they're not going to say yes to you in the beginning. And what's naturally going to happen is you're going to start say, oh, is this right? Should I be cold calling? Should I be cold emailing? Well, maybe maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. So instead of 100 a day, you'll get down to maybe 10 a day, if that, and you'll slow down. That makes it a million times worse because now you're not contacting people at all. Right. Then you really don't get booked. Now you start to literally just quit. You're just like, okay, this doesn't work. Let me go try something else like Facebook Live, right? Yep. Then you go do Facebook Live. You go to some other method that really doesn't work for getting gigs, and then you just kind of just give up, right? I see it a million times. Like I tell people, this will be one of the hardest things you'll ever do, ever. Sales is the hardest industry. It's why there's so much high turnover in sales in general. If you go on like anywhere to any business and you say like, hey, I want to see your sales team. You probably won't see a single person who's been there for like 3 years straight.
Oh yeah.
Just because, like, after a few months, they're like, dang, these leads suck. The quality of these leads are dumb. People aren't responding to the phone calls. Oh, these emails. They come up with all these excuses, but no matter where you go, there you are, as Confucius said. So it's like, you got to understand that the problem isn't the leads, it's not the website, it's not all that stuff. The problem is always you. It's like, are you, like, in fact, actually earlier today I mentioned, hey guys, do you want to do a call, because we're doing these calls every day at 10 a.m. Do you want to do a call tomorrow, July 4th? When they asked me that, they were like, hey, are we doing something July 4th? I was like, dude, I don't care what day it is. I don't care if it's Christmas. I don't care what day it is. I'm still going to be doing stuff. And so, yeah, and so like I told them, like, that's the mindset you got to have. And so I asked them, like, do you guys want to do it tomorrow? Some people say yes, some said no, but we're still going to do it tomorrow. But you got to understand that it's like that. No matter where you go, there you are. It always comes down to you in general. So when people say like, oh, cold email doesn't work, cold calling doesn't work, I'm like, no, you didn't get cold emailing to work. You didn't get cold calling to work. You're the problem, not the cold emailing or cold calling or content or any of that stuff. It all works. Like every Google ads, Facebook ads, all of it works. The thing is, do you know how to make it work? That's the only thing.
Exactly. So when it comes to investing, you would agree people have to invest in themselves if they want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
You have to invest. And I say that basically because one of the things that I wanted to have you on the show about is because I love what you're doing, so I want to support what you're doing. Okay? I want people to hear more about you in the circle that I run in so that they know, and hopefully you'll even pick up some more people, whether you need them or not. I love what you're doing. And when you talk about a motivational speaker, you are a motivational speaker, period. Okay, so
cool.
When you said you did mentalist and you realized, no, because it's how you share your content, because you share it from your heart, you're sincere about it, and because you know what you're talking about. So anytime you deliver a message and you know what you're talking about, it's going to have more impact. Okay, so for somebody starting out right now, maybe they're on the border, what would you suggest? Event Finder? Or what would you suggest for that person that's maybe watching motivation right now?
I actually tell people just to join the Speak Pro Academy, because even if you're starting out, you need the support, because what's going to happen is the mental frustration that's going to happen to you. And if you don't have that support, you're going to quit. And I see it a million times. Like, it doesn't matter if people are building an audience, if they want to do outreach, all that. They don't expect what's about to happen to them mentally. And so they just quit. And so that's why I tell people, I don't care if you've been on stages for a while, like you've been in the game for a while, I'll help you get on more stages a lot faster for a higher price. And then if you're just starting, I'll show you how to do it right from the get-go, because otherwise what's going to happen is you'll end up learning from all these other guys who are telling you to come up with promo packets. I don't even want to go off on these guys.
Exactly.
Man,
What would be one, let's say, one of the last things that you would say to my audience that out there, motivation actually is about motivating people, man. Benji, to take that next step in their lives, to build whatever the career is that they're trying to do. What could you say just briefly for the next 2 minutes just to motivate people, taking your skills, talk about anything that you want to talk about? You have 2.5, 3 minutes just to share your life and what you want to talk about, Benji.
Well, I tell people to think in terms of being like delusional practicality, to where you're delusional in the sense of what you want and you're practical in terms of how you get it. So if you look at any successful person, you'll notice that they're insanely delusional. Like, let's go to Mars, let's do this, right? It's insanely delusional in terms of what they're thinking, because it doesn't make sense from the standpoint of where they're at that they can actually accomplish this thing, but they believe it anyways. And then you get practical in terms of how you do it. You're like, okay, I'm going to do it by X, Y, Z. I'm going to study how rockets work, and then we'll do this, and we'll start building the rocket. You get insanely practical. It's not about being positive or being negative. It's simply about just being insanely practical, understanding that there's both, being delusional about what you want, practical in terms of how you get it, and you have to combine the two. I can't remember the exact wording of this quote, but he says something like an intelligent person is someone who can hold two simultaneous thoughts in his brain that are the exact opposite, like two opposing thoughts or whatever. I just screwed up the whole quote, but basically,
you said it pretty good, pretty much.
it's like what you're basically doing is like being delusional and practical. They're two thoughts that are the exact opposite. It doesn't make any sense. But you have to operate as if you truly believe in both of them and operate with both of them at the same time in terms of here's what I want and here's how I'm going to get it. And you can't think of this whole I'm just going to sit and just hum, hopefully it happens, visualize and all that. You got to sit there and be insanely practical about how you get it. Understand that it's going to be frustrating as hell. It's going to suck 24/7, but you still do it anyways because that's the thing that you truly want more than anything. So that's kind of what it just comes down to, delusional practicality.
Excellent. I love it. I'm going to steal that from you too. I like that.
All right.
Good advice from the world-renowned mentalist Benji Bruce and motivational speaker. Let me ask you this question. In ending, what do you actually do for fun? I mean, you work so much. What do you do for fun, Benji?
Well, I mean, to me, it's like it's all the same. Like
I know,
honestly,
that's what people ask me. But.
Yeah, like if I wasn't working, I'd just be bored as hell. And so, I mean, I play poker, I read a lot, and I watch movies. So those are the main things. But it's like, yeah, those are the main things that I do. If I wasn't working, I'd just be bored. I'd be like, what's the point of just chilling, doing nothing, going to pool parties and stuff? I'd just be bored.
Okay. How about this one? Can you give one book recommendation to my audience? I mean, I did order the one thing because of you, by the way. I ordered that book.
Nice. Yeah, that book is really good in terms of just productivity. So the one thing I always recommend I recommend everything by Robert Greene. I mean, start with 48 Laws of Power. That one. Then there's one called The Hypomanic Edge. I can't remember who it's by, but the Hypomanic Edge is really good. But my favorite is for sure Robert Greene. Anything Robert Greene comes out with, I'm just like, bought. So it's like Robert Greene. No. So How to Get Rich by Felix Dennis. So Felix Dennis, he's the guy who created Maxim magazine, and among other things. But in that book, like he really goes into the practical way of like building a business, just getting rich in general. And so he's like insanely practical about how it needs to get done. And so that's why I like that book. And any biography, like biographies are really good as well.
Sure. So
that's
How to Get Rich by Philip, what's his last name again?
Felix Dennis.
Felix Dennis.
Yeah.
Like Felix the cat.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Dennis. Okay.
And actually, real quick on biographies. So, like, look at Michael Jordan's biography and Kobe Bryant's biography, even Michael Jackson's biography. One of the reasons why I tell people biographies is because when you read motivational books, it presents one side to you. It's like, all right, if you visualize it, it's going to happen. All right. Whereas if you read biographies, both sides are presented to you. It's like, all right, Kobe Bryant, he became great and he cut off his family from him. His mom, everybody, he just cut them off. You don't read that sort of stuff in a motivational book. They're like, that's negative. I'm not putting that in there. And so that's why I say like read biographies, because you can see what this person actually did to become great. And so Kobe, Jordan, Tiger Woods, Michael Jackson, all of them are good.
All right. Well, I got to say this, Benji Bruce, you are great. Okay. I love what you do. Okay. Not to stroke you, but you're just really good at what you do. I appreciate the honor. I appreciate your time. You're a busy man. I tell people, if you're doing anything, if you're successful, you're going to be busy at what you do. So, and this was, I'm glad we had the opportunity to do the interview. I wish you great success. I hope that you even pick up some more business, more than you can even handle from this interview. That's my desire for you. So I want to thank you again.
Thanks.
Folks at home and all that you do, you've been watching Motivation. Stay blessed, stay fit, and stay active at whatever you're doing. Keep it positive. Thank you, Benji. We're going to see you next time on Motivation.
Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good day. Thank you.
You too.